Hello there and welcome to the video. So apparently spring is here, and more importantly, the sun is up for more than 5 hours a day. I also happen to have some vacation saved up. High time for a short little photo getaway. Just me, my cameras and my van. And we start at the rather spectacular cliffs of northwest Scania, or Scania. That's one nice viewpoint, but there's a difference between a nice viewpoint and a good photograph. So we'll carry on. I actually mostly spent my time on the north side of this nature preserve, as there's quite dramatic cliffs on that side. I have not been too much on this south side, as I never got around to it. But I did check photopills before going here, and the sun sets at this time of year to the southwest. So I figured this side would get the light a bit longer in the evening. Some nice side lighting. So I do hope I'll find some subject before the evening starts to set. Worst case scenario, I'll just drive to the main viewpoint, because I do know there's a spectacular view there that's perhaps been photographed one time too many. But hey, I'll do that if I can't find anything on this little trek or hike or whatever you like to call it. One of my videos, someone complained that I didn't vary my tripod height. I just had it at the top height, because that's the most comfortable for me. Well, can't complain about this. I'm literally sitting on the floor, or the ground, sorry. So I was intrigued by this tree in the scene here. Kind of liked how it stood out against the surroundings with this like evergreen tree among the rocks here. But I was even more intrigued by the rocks here, because they are almost white in the sun, and I think that makes for a good element for a black and white image. I had one problem though, the tree here. It kind of interfered with the horizon in a weird way, so kind of worked the scene moving around it. I think this is the best composition I could come up with today. Fairly close, having that down on the left, and then I actually added quite a lot of back movements to kind of emphasize the foreground a bit more. Wide angle lens arm. We'll see if it works. It's the first image of the day, and I hope the sun won't cause too much of glare issues for me. I'm going to do 2 exposures, one with all the movements, the back movements and the front movements, and one with just a straight shot against it as a safety. So I hope it turns out. So this scene is really tricky to meter. As you can see, I have the sun straight behind me. So So this will be a tricky one, and you can hardly see me. Let me spin you around. Difficult scene to meter? Oh, not difficult to meter, but it will be interesting to see if it works, because it's a really high dynamic range. We have really deep shadows and really bright highlights. But that's kind of what makes this scene for me, and what kind of caught my interest and made it think, oh, this might work as an image. Because you see, we have the tree we were at before, that will be silhouetted against the sky there, so really dark there. But just before it, in the mid-ground, we have a couple of rocks there, or this cliff, and there was a small little highlight there from the sun. And I thought that was a nice little interest point there. And in the foreground we have another group of rocks here that kind of catches the light and will be a nice interest there as well. So it kind of works, has all the elements for a good black and white image. And on top of that, the sun is kind of just straight behind the subject, so it will be interesting to see how this old camera and lens will fare against the sun. I did try and shield it against the sun using the dark side at the first exposure, but I was a bit worried that it might creep into frame, so I did a second exposure without it, and we'll see if any of them works, but it's always good to try. So that was okay, I suppose. Nice woodland actually, surprised by it. Kind of just went straight into the woodlands without checking the maps. I kind of like to explore that way, as long as I have some mobile phone coverage so I can find my way back. Anyhow, the woodlands looked promising, but not for today. At that rocky seaside. Once again, okay I think. Nothing brilliant, but nice to get out at least. And now I'm just going to drive up to the main parking lot. I do know there's quite a spectacular cliff formation out into the ocean there. So I'm going to try and photograph that for the sunset. Before that I do need to have some dinner. So I'm going to cook up my dinner at the main parking lot. If I park at the end of the parking lot, I think it would be okay. So yeah, let's head over there. I think it's like 5 minutes drive or something like that. So this will be quite a mad dash, because I have like half an hour left until the sunset. So I'm just going to pretty much just run down to the seaside here and try and find one composition to make the best of the evening light. It's like 5-10 minutes walk, so there is still some time, but yeah, we'll see if we make it. I didn't make one final image here with the large format. The obvious shot would have been the lighthouse right behind me, but I didn't want to go for that. It's been taken a million times and too. Nothing wrong with that, taking your own spin on that, but if I see something else that interests me or catches my eye, I'm going to go for that shot pretty much every time. So what caught my eye was these rocks here. The rocks in the foreground kind of catching the last of the light, and the rocks in the background dark. So kind of a hot and cold thing going on there. So I did went for that shot. I did measure it with my mobile phone at first, giving me 1/5 of a second at f/22. Did then re-measure with my spot meter, and I ended up at 1 second. Could be that the light level had dropped a bit between the two shots, but I do think my spot metering is better than my mobile metering. And with that said, it's time to head back to the car and find a nice park up. So try and get some sleep. Well, good morning. I've just finished off my 2 last sheets of large format, and we are at this like old stone quarry. I have actually wanted to visit this many times, but it is like 2.5 hours from where I live, so it hasn't really warranted its own like photo trip. So as I was here, as I explored Kullaberg before yesterday and I stayed overnight, this was well, perfect. Just a nice like 5 minutes walk from where I slept, and nice to explore, nice to see in this place. A bit disappointed, I must admit. I hoped for a bit more levels, a bit more landscape to play around with, but it's what it is. I really liked how the light kind of side-lit the trees here. They looked beautiful, and I almost made an exposure of that. But it just felt a bit ordinary. So I kind of ventured down into the stone quarry here just to have a look. And I did know I wanted to be on this side because the sun is rising over there, so this is the side where we have some light. And I still don't have a telephoto for the large format. And I do think I found quite an interesting image. So about this image. I do find this quite interesting, and I hope it works as good in paper as it works in my head. What we have here is, well, at first my eye was caught by how beautiful that tree looked when the light side lit it, giving it some nice shape there. I thought that looked pretty. Then we have a tree in the background, and framed by the grasses and the side of the quarry here. I thought good enough image to make an exposure. But then I noticed we have the water here in the quarry. Perfect mirror. And on the other side we have some trees against the sky there, reflecting in the water. So we have trees going in 2 different directions. Kind of an illusion there that I thought looked interesting. And by looking on a quite steep angle down to it, we have those 3 on the left side of the frame, and we have my 2 initial subjects to the right. And well, that's nice enough, but when you are looking straight down on that, it kind of ruins the illusion. So to mitigate that, I added quite a lot of back movements on the camera here to straighten out the lines, making it feel like you are looking straight on it. And I do think that might work. Another little detail is I did bracket these shots, not because I actually think I need to, but you see this lens, it doesn't sound quite right at the slower speeds, so from one half of a second up to 1/8 of a second. Doesn't sound quite right to my ear when out in the field. I have to check it when I get back to the office on the service table. But I wanted to have one backup shot like 1/15 of a second. So the first one was f16 and 1/5 of a second. Oh sorry, 1/4 of a second. And then the backup is at f11 and 1/15 of a second. So it's one stop difference there. So we'll see if those works. And with that, it's time to head back to the van and have some breakfast. So that was a nice little morning outing, just right for me. I didn't have more energy than that. And I do have high hopes for that image. And as I'm just waiting for the water to boil here so I can have my coffee and my oats, I think I should just mention shortly about the van. I'm sure you're curious. I was out with it once last summer, and I do think it was featured in one of my videos as well, just in the background. But I have made some few upgrades since. And it's still very basic. I just have this platform and I can remove the two back benches. They are just held in place by I think 4 screws and fairly easy to remove. But the front bench is left in place because that now houses a diesel heater and a battery. So I do have some power. I have an outlet there on a USB outlet and one here on the wall, so I can charge my phone and batteries and whatnot. I also added 2 windows in the back doors. It needed that. It was very claustrophobic in here without those. And I replaced the mattress. So I now have a foldable mattress. It's 70 by 190. Very basic, but it works quite well. And I sleep okay on it. So that's the van, and then it's just boxes under the benches and water in. Well, this is my water supply. So nothing fancy, but it works. I probably will upgrade it down the road, but for now I need to start using the van more so I can figure out what's important. One thing I will do is to add some more installation on the bare metal. There are a couple of spots where there's still bare metal and those get really cold, so I'm just going to add some sort of insulation on those. That's the only thing I'm going to upgrade this year, and then I'll figure out and do bigger upgrades this winter if I feel like I need them. But for now I need have finished my breakfast, and later today I'm going to head up to another national park, but I do think that's next week's video. So next week we'll head into marshland. This was the first stop on my short little photo van trip, and the images? Okay, nothing earth-shattering, but decent enough. Especially that last image. It might not have turned out exactly how I envisioned it out in the field, but I still think it works. The main hero being that slim tree, sidelit by the rising sun, nicely framed by the Quary wall and the grasses to the left. I just think it came together rather beautiful. It might even be print-worthy, but that's a story for another time. For now, I think it's time to end this week's video. Join me next week when I continue my short little van trip, and we enter marshland. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care and bye.